there's a fine difference between struggling and striving.
Yeah.
Struggling is sitting at your house on the couch wanting the world to change. Striving is literally just walking out the door and talking to people, doing something, striving towards your goal, whatever it may be, or goals. So I found myself all often being like, oh, I'm struggling so much, and I'm like, no, I'm not sitting on the couch. I'm not waiting for things to happen. I'm out there, I'm talking to people. Maybe it hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it isn't going to.
What's going on, guys? It's Andrew with Pride. Today we've got Chaz, the owner of Healing One. If anything really sticks out in this episode, guys, make sure you share this out to somebody. Subscribe, whether you're on Apple or Spotify, or even if you're actually seeing this on YouTube. But anyway, that being said, man, I have this funny little connection to you because I actually went to Healing One before I ever knew who you were.
That's awesome.
It was at this point almost exactly 4 years ago.
Okay.
Because I went right before my 25th birthday, and I kind of had like this quarter life crisis. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? And it sounds funny to say quarter life crisis, but
I totally had the same, so yeah, I understand that space.
So it was, I was like diving deep into meditation at that time, and I'd probably been getting into it for a few years, and I was pretty inconsistent, but I'd experienced some of the value out of it. And then I started listening to Sam Harris. I don't know if you know who that is, but
I don't, actually.
He's a really cool meditation teacher.
Okay,
but
I'll have to check him out.
Starts talking about a lot of different stuff and mentions float tanks, and I go, what the hell is that? And then it's like sensory deprivation tank and this and that and yada yada. And I was like, okay, let's check it out, see what it's like. So at that point, I had bought tickets to travel to a different country on like just a spur of the moment decision, and I was like, I'm gonna do this too. Boom, bought tickets to, or a thing to do the float tank, the Healing One, and I'm just chilling in there, and I don't even know how to explain it. It was just kind of one of those situations where I was like, this is a good step. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I'm supposed to be going. I'm meant to have this experience. And it was just, also, anybody who's listening to this one's going to be a lot more woo-woo than the usual one. They've probably never heard, like, this version of me. But yeah, it was this very, like, at-peace experience. And I actually remember, I don't know if you guys still do this, but at the time, you guys, like, pipe some music into it, and then just slowly, and then it kind of dissipates. And I was sitting there, and I was just like, this crazy, like, inexplicable amount of like peace and everything, and I was just like, I'm so happy with my life. And I don't know how to explain it other than that, but that was probably a turning point for me as far as like meditation and mindfulness goes. So
that's so rad.
That's my weird little experience with what you guys actually do. But
I love that.
We were talking about it off air a little bit ago, but 7 years ago I couldn't imagine Healing One being as popular as it actually is now, let alone surviving in Reno.
Right.
How was it the first? I mean, one, tell us a little bit about Healing One. Like, give us the rundown on Healing One and you in general.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue, because ultimately it was really tough. The beginning was really gnarly. I had a hard time with investors. I had a hard time convincing business partners, everyone, because I'm not putting together like a pizza joint or a bar or something like that. We're putting together a full-fledged healing center, right? Which is, like you said, unfortunately very woo-woo in our time now, but I think that's transitioning out. And really that's kind of our goal, is really bringing like the professional side to the healing side and really stepping into that space. And that's what I've been really working on the last 6-7 years. So it was really intense in the beginning. No one really believes you or what you're going to do. Or I had this clear vision. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Literally, I quit my job as an electrician 6 months after I had this vision.
Wow.
Just like, later, here's the new path. So pretty much all my friends, family, and everyone I knew thought I was just insane. I'm like, I'm going to put people in tanks and they're going to do nothing for an hour, 90 minutes. They're like, what? People are going to pay you to do nothing? For real? Like, that's a thing?
It's even funnier, too, because it's also, like, a total misunderstanding of what it actually is.
Right.
It's this idea of paying to do nothing. But, I mean, it's like, that's kind of what everything is until you, like, impart some meaning or value on it.
Well, kind of like you said, you know, you're like going in here and ultimately you're probably thinking, oh, I'm going to go in here and sit and do nothing. And you kind of found everything, right? You kind of found that peaceful space.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the interesting transition, is from nothing, we really kind of gather everything.
Yeah.
My story is I was an electrician for 6 years, while I was also understanding and learning energy healing techniques. So I was learning the very subtle side of energy as well as the physical side of energy. I'm also a flow artist, so I have really a nice knowledge base of flow and energetics, physically and subtly. And so I was kind of working as an electrician, you know, kind of not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And really just dove into, what do I want to do? What am I here for? What is my passion? What is my purpose? You know, these kind of things. And diving into lots of meditation, soul searching. This is my quarter life crisis, right? Like, what am I going to do? I'm 25. I need to change my life. And ultimately, I just had this vision, download, whatever you want to call it, literally just punched me in the face, to the point, like I said, where like 6 months later, I was like, I'm going to quit my job. I lived in Elko, Nevada, Spring Creek, Nevada. Okay. So 6 months after that, quit my job, moved to Reno. It took me a year and a half to gather funds, find the spot, open the space, all of that. So we opened in the middle of 2015. And then, it was really intense and tough for honestly the first like 4 or 5 years. Really, I mean, we're moving towards our 7th year right now. Although it really was just insane, because, you know, people don't think you can make money off of the healing arts or create a career or that, you know. And it's really interesting that that's the case now, because people can make a career out of podcasting. Just sitting here and talking to someone, or, you know, people are making all these different careers of all these things you'd never think of. So
thank God for the internet.
Yeah, totally. So that was a really interesting time. It's funny, I always joke about how if people knew how hard I killed themselves for their healing, and me and my team killed ourselves for their healing, it's just kind of a funny little thing. So we ultimately just have been moving forward, slowly growing every year, putting in a new float tank, really using our profits to throw into the center constantly, consistently. We had a really rough time in 2020, as everyone else did.
Probably, unspecified virus.
Well, and what happened to us is December 2019, our landlords came to us and said, hey, we're going to sell this place. They're going to kick you out, and you have to find a new location. I mean, I'm almost $200,000 built out into this place. I'm like, no, you can't kick me out.
So are you not at that place over by the Atlantis anymore?
Right, yeah. We're not there anymore. So we had to move. It was interesting. It all worked very divinely, and that's kind of what I think is, like, if you're on your path and moving forward towards things, then doors open up for you, and if not, maybe you run into some more doors. So 2019 December, we got this notice. We had to be out by June 2020. Well, the pandemic hit in March 2020. So
wow, I didn't even think about all that.
Yeah, so we were like planning to like find a new spot and build it out. We had no idea what we were doing or how this was going to happen. Honestly, thought I was going to lose my business. I was like, there goes 5 years down the drain of all this energy, effort, 90 hours a week.
And especially it's, I think a lot of people don't actually realize how intensely the health and fitness and healing spaces actually got hit with it too, because we became almost like a pariah, because it was, if we mentioned something health related that conflicted in any way with the CDC. I mean, even if it was something as simple as sleep and drink water and eat good food, it was boom, your business is fucked, you get your content removed, you'd get hit with fines, you'd get hit with this and stuff. And I can't imagine how it was having a physical space for you guys too.
Yeah. And that was the really intense thing. Like I said, $200,000 built out. We've been working really tough to this spot. We were actually in a renovation of $30,000 when they told us this happened. I'm like, you can tell me a month ago? Okay. Well, so anyways, so March, the world shut down. March 17th is what I remember, 2020. So I talked to my landlord and said, hey, I can't afford to pay you a couple more months rent. I'm going to be out by April. We tore the center apart in a month. And I mean, tore the center apart. We pulled up the floor. We pulled off doors. I took everything from that place. They were renovating it anyways, so it wasn't really a big deal. But I took as much as I could because I lost so much in the build out, right? You can only get so much back from that. So ultimately, I think we lost a good $100,000 in that move.
Oh my God.
Which was pretty detrimental and intense. So anyways, I'm super driven. This is like my whole passion in my life and what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how we're going to move forward, but we're going to move forward. So just started looking for new spots after I moved all of Healing 1 into 2,000 square feet of storage and just kind of set it there for about 9 months. Which was pretty interesting to have your entire business sitting in storage. Like, okay, well, we're not making any money and all of this money is sitting in this storage. Like, okay, try not to lose your mind.
Yeah, sir. Well, and especially during that period of time, how were you as a person staying afloat?
Well, that is very interesting too. Ultimately, this has been my whole life, so I was still drawing paychecks for a little while until it got to the point where I couldn't anymore. And so I went a couple months without pay, and that was pretty detrimental. Although ultimately everything smoothed out. We got the PPP, we got a couple of those loans, which is really helpful, and just got those forgiven, so that was a blessing.
Oh, heck yeah.
And then we also got the EIDL. I don't know if you know about that, the disaster relief loan.
Oh, yeah, okay. I got that as well.
Yeah, so between those loans is what gave us the finances to build out the new center. So I found a new center, really started building it out. It took us 9 months to build it out. We opened in February of 2021 this year, and we were closed for 11 months. Wow. We were out of business technically for 11 months, around our 5th year, which is really intriguing to me because you hear so many
things about...
The
5th year is supposed to be the good year.
Yeah, the 5th year is like, oh, you made it.
Yep.
You did it.
You stuck around long enough. You're not in the tank. Well done.
And our literal 5th birthday party, I was building out a new center because we didn't have a center.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, well, it is not the normal for us. Yeah. So that was really fun.
So there's assumptively, the kind of stuff that you guys do, you of course build a community. You have people who care about what you guys do, especially because as far as I know, nobody else in Reno does what you guys do.
Right.
What kind of support were you actually seeing from Reno as a whole, through that process?
Yeah, so we had about 180 members when we closed the doors, and 160 members kept paying us for 2 months. And then we weren't sure of our future, so we cut all of those members, and 20 of them decided to stay.
Wow.
20 members paid us monthly for the 11 months we were out of business.
Man.
So honestly, it was just enough money to cover the storage.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a lot of good synchronicities happening here. That's interesting.
It's very laid out. I find when you're on your path, truly, doors just open and you somehow walk right through them, and you're just like my thing nowadays is I don't even ask or question why. I just say thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, this happened. I'm like, oh, how? Why? Oh, nope. Don't care. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's keep moving forward.
It's this people always talk about pain is because you're not letting go.
Right.
Or the inverse of that, pleasure is in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I will say, in my experience, that's shown to be very, very true, because the times where I'm not, future tripping super hard, where I'm just because, they say, in the future is anxiety and in the past is depression.
Totally.
And I have lived both of those, where it's I'm future tripping so hard. I'm like, oh God, what's my business going to do? And what's the blah, 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 or
right.
looking back at dumb shit that I did years ago, and I'm pissed off at myself or upset or unhappy or whatever. And it's when you let go and you just let things be, as they are. And obviously you still have to work towards stuff.
Right.
I assume you're aware of the book The Secret.
Yeah. You're still moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of people read the book The Secret and were like, okay, I'm going to manifest this, and then sat in their room and did nothing for 5 years. And it's
yeah.
Nope, you still got to take action.
That's really how I see it too, is there's a fine difference between struggling and striving.
Yeah.
Struggling is sitting at your house on the couch wanting the world to change. Mm-hmm. Striving is literally just walking out the door and talking to people, doing something, striving towards your goal, whatever it may be, or goals. So I found myself all often being like, oh, I'm struggling so much. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not sitting on the couch. I'm not waiting for things to happen. I'm out there. I'm talking to people. Maybe it hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it isn't going to. You know, so that difference is really fine for people. And I recommend people to check that in themselves, right? Am I really struggling? Okay, cool. Well, get off the couch, you know, go outside, go talk to someone, go talk about your dream.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of how I built the company is I was just like, hey, Andrew, how's it going? What's up with you? And you'd be like, tell me about your whole life, this and that. And what happens is eventually people get exhausted talking about themselves. And they're like, okay, I think that's everything that I have.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And that was my opportunity. Like, perfect. Let me tell you.
Glad you asked. Sit the fuck down.
You got 30 minutes? Great.
Yeah, seriously. It's funny too, because like to fully explain, like I guess the depth of like what actually goes into all of this kind of stuff is so complicated, because I mean, it's even like people who come and talk to me and they're like, what do you do? You know, I always just kind of give the canned response of I'm a personal trainer, and
right.
You know, I do a couple of other things on the side of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the elevator pitch of the healing one?
Yeah, so it's kind of changed a little bit over the years. In the beginning, it was definitely like, I need money to start this, so how can you help me, you know, do this kind of thing? Which again was a little resistant on a lot of people's ends. Like, oh, you're gonna do this thing that no one's done, or it's not very common. Like,
well, especially a guy coming out of Elko. Like for people who are not from this area, like Elko is not like the holistic space. You know, that's like that's pretty damn country as far as Nevada goes.
Yeah, cowboy country, gold mining.
Yep,
that's really what it is. Yeah, so it was very different than, you know, we were really just trying to get the center off the ground and just like, hey, I'm Chaz, I'm doing this thing. It's going to change our community's life. It's going to change people's life. I know this personally, like I see it, I feel it. You know, so that was a little bit rough, and I got it pretty dialed, and ultimately, obviously, got some investors involved and stuff. But nowadays, really what we're striving for is we're hoping to help create healing communities. Right. And so through that, you know, I see one big market that a lot of people are missing is health and healing, mm-hmm. you know, and health has really been slowly on the rise over the last 10, 20 years or so, but really not healing. Healing is just now kind of coming into full picture, I think, and really in the modern society view. And 2020 helped out with that greatly.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't know that you were stressed or depressed or anxious or
lock yourself up for a year, you're gonna fucking learn.
Yeah, you know a lot about it now. So that's really kind of what we're working towards now, is helping to raise the awareness of, you know, like, you take care of yourself, and once you're a solid unit, you can take care of anything and anyone and any situation around yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, so ultimately creating space within you will help you create space within your world, kind of thing. You know, so that has kind of changed over the couple, you know, 6-7 years. But ultimately it's all relative to, like, we want to help people help themselves, right? And that's really the goal, and that was kind of the statement out the gate. Like, let me help me help you.
Yeah, facilitate that healing.
Right, you know, help me start this center so I can help you rest, relax, heal, grow, so on and so forth.
Even some of the like really esoteric things. People in my life that I suppose you could describe as like more Western. Like one of my really good friends, you know, she's like a hyper skeptical person, mm-hmm. not into like energy healing or breath work or anything. Like, she likes eating and lifting weights, and that's it.
Uh-huh.
And then I had a friend hit her up and basically offered to do a free sound bath for her, which I don't even know how to explain that. It's kind of just a lot of sound getting blasted at you, for lack of a better word. But
yeah.
That's probably like the briefest way of explaining it. And she ended up texting me after, and she's like, I feel amazing. It's like, yeah. And like a lot of that is just like, because someone is, yeah, exactly.
No.
A lot of that is because people are so hyper focused on you. It's like, when someone is trying to take care of you or put intention towards you, you know, you feel it. And I think that's a lot of the reason why, and obviously there are like physical measurable things through like massage and Reiki and
right.
All that kind of stuff, but there's also this element of, like you said, facilitating healing for someone else, just being there and giving that intense attention where people's bodies kind of start to regulate themselves.
Right. Well, and that is very it's an understanding that we're coming to from societal view, right? The Western human is very mind body, right? We haven't even been looking at the spirit really.
Yep.
And what we have been looking at is religion, and we don't need to go there right now.
Dude, we totally can though. Honestly, there's nothing off limits here.
I appreciate that, but I think honing back in that religion's a whole.
I get you.
And I don't want to piss too many people off.
No, I get it.
But yeah, so that's kind of the concept that I've seen is, really we are this mind, we are this body, we are this spirit, right? So there's really 3 separations of ourself here, but we look at it like this.
Yep.
Right, as individual, as singular.
Yeah. Just for anybody who's not watching this, what he's doing is holding up 3 fingers so his palm is facing, and then turning his hand 90 degrees so the 3 fingers are lined up. You're not seeing those 3 fingers anymore. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, and so the 3 are ultimately divulged into the 1, right? And that's the thing is we see our mind in our body, right? Our mind talks to us. Our body's physical. We see it every day. So those things we're in this very physical reality. Well, with our spirit is so present. And it's there, but we just haven't been so attuned to it ultimately. And so that's kind of what I see, and I love the skepticism. Anybody who's the most skeptical, please hit me up, come talk to me.
I would challenge everybody.
Love to sit and chat with you.
Yeah.
Because ultimately everything is energy.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're not believing in energy, then let's just go ahead and break it down.
Not anything.
Right.
Did you ever read Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton?
Is it Lipton or Joe Dispenza?
No, it's Bruce Lipton.
Okay.
Biology of Belief.
I think I have. I listened to it.
I have the first time that I ever read it. I remember there's this part in it where it's talking about like energy and stuff like that, and there's this part where it's talking about just like how small things actually break down. You zoom in more and more and more and more and more, and the closer that you get, it gets to a point where you see nothing.
Right.
And then it's like, this page that you're looking at right now, if you zoomed in enough on it, you would see, basically down to atoms, and then you zoom in on that even more, you're going to see protons, neutrons, and electrons, and you zoom in on that even more, and all you see is a vortex of energy.
Right.
And it's like, theoretically, because we are energy and everything else around us is energy, you should be able to put your hand through this book because you are non-physical matter. And I was like, I was probably 24, 25 or something like that, and I was just like, what the fuck? And I probably sat there for like 10 minutes just trying to will myself through this book. I was like, I can do it. He's right.
Right.
And then I checked my phone, and it turns out I'd been like thinking about this for hours, and I was like, I need to go to bed. But like,
that's cool.
Like at the end of the day, we are energy. And
well, that's the thing. Everything is, right? And that's the difference. The reason you can't put your hand through the book is because different vibration levels.
Yep.
Right. We're a different vibration than the desk, than the book, than water, and all of these things. That's why some work like that, and you can dive into water, and you can't run into a concrete wall and go through it.
That was that was good.
So
that kind of hit me a little bit.
Yeah, and that's really kind of the thing. That's why I love having that conversation. And definitely, yes, challenge. If anyone is out there and wants to chat about this more, I would love to, because science is proving it through and through and through that everything is vibration, and so really everything is energy, right? That is what vibration is ultimately. And so, kind of coming back, really, that's the thing that I saw, and where I found this to be the most profound is my grandmother. She was the one that helped raise me, and she was just like my mother and all of that. She passed away a couple months before I started Healing One, and I went to her funeral, and they had an open casket, and I was like, I don't want to see my grandma. I remember how she is. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. We get to the funeral parlor, and I go inside, and this voice in me is like, how are you not going to go see your grandma? Like, how are you not going to do this? Like, you are a part of this energy, spirit, mind, body. And I was like, okay, you're right. I'm going to go do it. So anyways, I'm standing in line to go see her open casket. All these people come up. They're bawling their eyes out, crying, I walk up, and I kid you not, I almost start laughing. Because when I looked upon my grandma, it was not my grandma. Mm-hmm. Yes, her mind was in her body. Yes, her body was still there. What wasn't there? Her spirit. So her spirit wasn't there. Everything else was there. The other 3 of the Holy Trinity is sitting right there besides the spirit, and she's not there. So I have this huge epiphany where I'm like, the spirit is like 99.7% of the human existence. What you see right now as Chaz is literally just an energetic being running this physical meat suit. And it blew me away. I was like, not only is, mind and body important, but spirit is the way. It's everything. And I can see this, and I've proved it to myself through my energy practice, because people come in down, out, needing healing, needing this, needing that, whatever they need.
Quarter life crisis.
Yeah, quarter life crisis. And seriously, an hour in the room, 90 in the room with me, and they come out and they're like, holy shit. Yeah. I feel better. I'm like, okay, what are you feeling? I feel lighter. And I'm like, explain that. Did you just lose 10 pounds on the table?
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm chills, bro.
How did you lose 10 pounds on the table? If you're lighter, how did that happen? What happened?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Through energy healing and through these practices and through what we have going on with Healing One is we help you alleviate the pressure, the tension of the energy that you're holding that you no longer need, right? We're constantly and consistently holding certain energies in certain chakras and certain spaces that don't serve us any longer.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where I've kind of proven to myself and ultimately to my clientele and, through and through who I talk to is they recognize like, holy shit, something did change. Like there was a weight lifted there. I'm lighter, I'm brighter. I can't even explain it. And so that's where I've kind of kept moving down this path and realizing like we need to get this stuff out there. We need to help people recognize how much energy they're holding, because that's what's weighing them down. That's what's keeping them on the couch. That's what makes them think they're not worthy of starting a business, starting a movement practice, anything like that, right? It's the pain of childhood or any traumas in relationship or anything like that. And when you go to see an energy healer like myself or someone else, that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to help you find the spaces that create too much weight for you and anchor you and alleviate those.
Yeah.
And really, I have this thing with the forgive and forget, where I don't believe that is exactly the saying. I believe it's more like forgive, but you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Yeah. It's. I don't think that you should, because one, if you completely just like let something go, you're gonna repeat it.
Right.
And two, like, you haven't learned anything at that point.
Right. But you have to forgive.
Yes.
Because forgiveness is where the weight comes if you don't allow it.
Yes.
Right. And that's what I've seen in a lot of people. Like, I understand that you're going through a lot, but like, let's release it and bring new energy. And that's kind of one of the pieces that I wanted to bring to this podcast is the way forward, in my opinion, and what I do in my life. I constantly and continually release energy, right? This pain, this happiness, this sadness, whatever it is, I constantly move it through my system, understand it, learn from it, like you're saying, have a lesson, and then release it and ground it out. Because what happens if you look at the whole field of energetics, there is a toroidal field. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It looks like
toroidal field. Explain that.
Yeah, so ultimately it's kind of like what creates your aura, right? The toroidal field is built off of your chakra energy, right? All of these chakra energies come out and they build your auric field. Okay. What happens, it really looks like a tree, right? Okay. You have the trunk of the tree, and it comes up and it moves through your system and then sprouts out like the top of a tree, but then it keeps circling around.
Okay, I know
the cosmos. I got you. Yeah, and then down through your feet again and back up and through. Right. And it can run either way, right? It can run down through Mother Earth, or it can run up through the divine.
Is that different from the microcosmic orbit?
No, I think they're relatively the same.
Okay, that's what I was... Because my understanding... Sorry, guys, we're sidetracking real quick. My understanding of, like, microcosmic orbit was it's basically front to back, over the front of the body, and then under the groin, and then up the back of the head. But I always see illustrations of, you call it the toroidal field. Mm-hmm. So I always see illustrations of that, and for some reason that kind of resonates a little bit better with me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty similar. I'd have to see a picture of that, and maybe vice versa. You see a picture of the toroidal field. But ultimately, it is, if you look at the top of it, it looks like a donut. Right.
Okay, I do know what you're talking about. I got you 100%.
Yeah, so it's moving one way or the other way, right? So that's what I like help people see in this is when you release something, you actually don't release it forever. What you do is you release it, it grounds out through the ground. We'll just move it down first. Move it, You release it, moves out through Mother Earth, which filters, cleanses, cleans, comes out through the cosmos, which is the darkness, right? Comes back to the divine, which I see as the light, and then that brings new energy and information around the same situation or subject, right? So you're actually just cleansing and clearing your holds or your tie to any situation, and vice versa. You can do it the other way too. And really, I would recommend flowing it the way that it feels best. Right. If it feels like you want to flow up through your system and out through the divine, then cosmos, then up through Mother Earth, back to you, one way or the other, really doesn't matter. It's whatever you need to let it go and flow through. But that's the point, is through forgiveness or allowing that energy to move, right, it will come back to you with this new energy and information so you can process it further. Right. And I think that is the issue of why we have a lot of tension, or we have a lot of blockages or holds in our system.
It's a physical manifestation of being stuck.
Right. Exactly. And that's how I explain energy healing to people too. When they come into Healing One, they're curious, like, what is energy healing? And I'm like, it's a massage for your subtle body, your energetic body.
Can you explain a subtle body to people, by the way? Because that's going to be lost on a lot of people.
Yeah. So
I'm bad at explaining what it is.
Yeah, no worries at all. Ultimately, the subtle body is the energetic body, is the chakras, it is the aura. You've probably all heard of those, right? But it is ultimately the ethereal version of you, right? And again, your spirit, right? And so that's where I see the mind, body, spirit trinity kind of laid out in that space. But through the movement of the energy in your subtle body, through your chakras, through your aura, and that you ultimately release to receive new energy, right? And I think that's really the key there, is the release of anything, right? And I speak about heartache the most, because it's the one thing that we individualize to ourselves, but it is the most generalized thing.
It is such a visceral experience too. Like, when you feel it, you know that you're feeling it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it turns into a physical manifestation, right? And that's where people become depressed or anxious, or, like you said, tripping in the future, in the past.
I was stuck in my fucking bed. Like, honestly,
Totally.
The last time that it really happened for me, I remember just like a month straight of me just not being able to get out of bed, and it became one of those things where it's, I'm like stuck in bed. And then I remembered this piece of content that I shot like a year ago, where it was like, when you get depressed, you have to move.
Right.
You have to unstick yourself. And that's actually what ended up finally pulling me out of it. Was I got back on routine of getting up at the right time, not sitting in fucking bed, not going into this like depression cave of my bedroom, basically. But it's, yeah, sorry, just something that like stuck out about what you said. Yeah,
no worries. Well, and that's what happens, is we stagnate, or I like to put it as individualize this energy, right? It's like, oh, this is Chaz's heartbreak, and I'm gonna have this forever, and it'll never leave. And it's understandably so, because our heart is the most powerful piece of our system. They are now reading your I believe it's your EMF, your electromagnetic frequency, and they read your mind, and your mind is like a foot around your head, right?
Dude, Chaz, I fucking love this conversation. I had to interrupt you to fucking say that, dude. I love this conversation so much, dude.
Awesome.
Please continue, dude. I'm loving this.
Yeah, this is my jam too. I could sit here for hours and hours and hours. Although your heart there's this if you don't know about it already, it's called the Heart Math Institute.
Heart Math, yes.
And they have done study. Your heart is like 5-6 feet beyond your reach.
Yep.
So your heart energy just like encompasses everything. Right?
Just to clarify what he's saying, guys. Basically, what he's saying is that the energy of your heart, they can physically measure it beyond your body. So like, it is such a powerful thing. They can actually measure the presence of it like well beyond like I'm putting that in quotes, our boundary of like our skin.
Yeah, exactly. And they can do that with the mind too. They can mainly do it with the mind and the heart, but the heart is like 10 times what the mind is. And if you don't know about it, people listening, check out Heart Math Institute. It is phenomenal. Those people are doing amazing work. I have to check in on them every once in a while, because I'm like, what are you guys coming up with?
What's happening now? Yep.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just say really fast about them that I do love is they are starting to prove that if you can live from your heart, right, and really exist from more of your heart than your mind, you can almost see the future up to a couple seconds, right?
Whoa.
Which is more of using your intuition. And they've proven this or seen this through how flocks of birds or how schools of fish swim. they don't have the brain capacity to be like, no, Andrew, I'm not following you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go this way, right? So they just fully exist out of their heart. So that's why when you see a flock of birds or school of fish, they move in sync perfectly.
Right.
Because they see where the other fish are going before it's even in front of them.
Whoa.
Yeah, so anyways, tangent, but check that stuff out.
Cool. And it's, I had to start writing. This is the first podcast that I've actually had to write things down and made conversation, because I was like, shit, I got to make sure we come back to this. You'd mentioned the soul and your grandmother.
Yeah.
Just real quick, was that thought finished?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned the soul, and kind of talked about, like, you know, where is our soul versus our brain versus, you know, us and stuff like that. And that's something this has kind of been the question in my mind for probably the last 5 years, and I don't know if there is an answer to it, which is why I like ask someone who seems like they're kind of on that wavelength to get their take on it. Where are you in your body?
In that process?
No. Where are you in your body?
Well, and so that's the thing is, I see what's happening with a lot of us is we have so much trauma and so much stuff going on in our life that actually our spirit moves out of our body, right? So you can see it with like a lot of like homeless people, right? Or people on the side of the road that are just yelling at the telephone pole, right? Their spirit is not in their body. They are not the Holy Trinity, right? And so that's one of my biggest practices right now is working on embodiment. So you'll see this in yourself. You'll be running, you'll be doing this, you'll be blah, 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 going, and all of a sudden you'll like have to take a breath and you're like overwhelmed, you know what's going on. It's because ultimately your soul is not seated in your body, right? Your mind is always sitting there. Your body's always sitting there, but your soul is not seated in your body. And so that's one of the practices I've been working with my clientele and with myself lately, is actually doing this thing where I sit there, kind of meditate, and I'm actually physically grabbing the soul, what I see outside of myself, wherever I feel it, and I take a big deep breath and I move it into my body, and then I ground it on my exhale and seat it in my body, right? And so that's a great question, because oftentimes we fly out of our body, right? We're going too much, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And you'll see it sometimes. Maybe you're working out and you like are going really fast and you trip over a thing and fall on your face. And you're like, where am I right now? What? Stop, sit down, come back. And that's why that stuff happens, right? Is so you can reintegrate your soul back into your body. Because the thing is, ultimately, we are insanely powerful, right? We are insanely powerful if we are the Holy Trinity, right? That is what ultimately creates the Merkaba, or the light body, right? Is having the mind, the body, and the spirit all connected, all seated together.
Interesting that there's all these different trinities through various.
Yeah. I mean, it's constant, continuous rabbit hole.
Dude, I know it, because it's every time you've said it, I'm like, we're not going to talk about it today, but damn, I want to.
Maybe we'll have to do a round two.
Absolutely, I'd love to, man. Glenn, what time is it, by the way? Just because he does got to be out of here at what time did you say?
2:30.
2:30.
It's 2:02.
Okay, cool. We got some time. Give us like a 10-15 minute timer.
Got it.
One other thing, because you'd mentioned. Wait, was that finished?
Let's
continue.
Finish a little bit there.
Okay.
So ultimately, you asked me where I sit in my body, right? And so
more so, where do people sit? So to kind of frame that question a little bit better, is when someone thinks about, like, you know, they tend to think of themselves in their head. You know, this is where we reside. Like, this is the seat of attention, is our head. And obviously that's not true. So it's also kind of one of those things of, like, you know, where does Andrew end and other things begin? And this all kind of came to a head for me. At this point, it's been 2 years. And I was meditating with a group, and it was like an Om meditation. And I felt the border of, oh, guys, this is gonna like make people be like, oh fuck, Andrew's a little different than I thought. I felt the border of my skin to the people on my left and my right, their hands dissolve, and I kind of pushed myself out into that, and we're in this circle holding hands. Beautiful. And then I go, well, can I go further? And I push myself further and further and further until, you know, I, so to speak, am completing this circle. And then I go, well, can I go into the floor? And then I push myself down to there? And can I go to the ceiling? And I just feel, again, whatever,
right,
expanding consistently. And that was probably where this like 4 or 5 years of like, where am I, kind of culminated, was this, I feel like I'm in my body,
right,
but then it's, where am I in my body, and how can I leave it, and can I push myself? If I can push myself into other people, then where do I stop, and where does the rest of the world begin?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. That's a whole depth of rabbit hole, because really, I is one.
Yeah, we all.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So that's the thing. You dissolved into them because you guys sat there in meditation and had probably an intention to be as one, right? And so that's the thing. And for instance, in this space we're here right now, right, you could almost look at the three of us as individual energetics, right? Mm-hmm. But really what's happening is, since we are so closely listening and paying attention and receiving and giving to each other right now, we are one big bubble, right? We're one big energy system right now.
Even you, Glenn.
Yeah, I know.
Yep, exactly. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And so that's the thing, is you can dissolve into another, right? You might find that in like a best friend. You might find that in a really passionate lover, right? You're just like, you're like, holy crap, I see me and you. How does, like I've actually had some meditations where I sat down with one of my good friends, and we stared at each other's eyes for 15 minutes. If you have never done that practice,
eye gazing is fucking powerful.
2 minutes in that practice, you'll lose your mind. In the best possible way.
Yeah.
But we did 15 minutes. She could have done an hour. And I literally saw everything in 15 minutes. I saw her, and as a grandmother, as a child, as a baby, I saw her family, her life. I saw every lineage she's ever been through. I saw me in her. It was insane. It was so beautiful. And that's the thing, is ultimately we are one. We are a collective, which is so beautiful and so powerful. Although that's what happens, why we come out of our body, because we stand in separation, right? There's very much like, oh, I'm Chaz and I have my own world, and Andrew has his own world, and but really, if you really looked at things to a depth, there's probably a ton of similarities, right? And so that's kind of wrapping this back in. That's what I think happens a lot of times, is people are so overwhelmed with their mind or their body that their soul is not comfortable, so it sits outside of themselves, right? And we see this in a lot of trauma, or in a lot of I hear a lot about it in like rape victims and stuff.
It's going to be my next rabbit hole.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is their body is being taken over by someone, and their soul is just, it has to leave, has to go out. That's why a lot of people don't remember what's happening, is because their soul is outside of their system. And so that's a lot of been the practice that I've been working on, and I've been working with my clientele on, is like, you are outside of your body, so you are not your best version, right? If we are the Holy Trinity, and that is the power, that is the way, then we have to constantly and consistently bring us back. And that's why I do morning meditations, is because I call that back. I wake up my mind, my body, and my spirit every day. And I think that is really one of the most important things that I've come to find, is we all know it's important to wake up your mind and your body, right? So like, you wake up, you play guitar, or you read a book, or you wake up your mind, right? Mm-hmm. You wake up and stretch out, do some yoga, work out, something like that. You wake up your body. What are we doing to wake up our spirit and integrate it every day? Meditation is great. Not everyone's doing that. That's understandable, but there has to be some sort of either calling it in or checking yourself. That's why I love meditation. I recommend it in the morning too, because then you're entering your world as a full unit, right? Yes. Some people love it better at night, but it's like, give yourself 2 to 5 minutes. Yeah, totally. At night it's great because you're releasing a lot of your day, right? Or reflecting, which I think is massive. I think actually one of my biggest my biggest successors in myself is my ability to reflect so deeply and check myself. Hey, could I have this interaction be different? Could it be deeper here?
Being able to introspect is a rare thing these days.
Right, and such an amazingly powerful thing too. Truly is.
That's how you really level up, is being able to actually go into yourself and be like, how am I? Like, the way that I heard it was, if bad things happen and it's not your fault, then that means there's something wrong with reality. But if bad things happen and you make it your fault, that means that there's something wrong with you. And you can fix you.
Right.
You can't fix reality.
Totally.
Because reality is as it is.
And that's why, again, I find meditation to be so powerful, right? Because you check yourself. If we were constantly checking ourselves, because every interaction you have, whether it's bad or good, you're a part of, right? Two to tango kind of thing, so whether you initiated it or whatever, you were still in that space, in that conversation for a reason, right? And that's really the concept of understanding the lessons that come to you. And that's how you can take life, right? You can take it and be like, oh, this happened to me and blah, 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 right? Or you can go with, oh, this happened for me, right? This happened for me to grow, to expand on my consciousness.
That's a hard thing for people too. It's
Totally.
very hard, especially when, when we really go down the like very fucked up reality of sexual assault, So
Right.
like, I've talked about this in like Instagram posts and stuff like that, but like I was sexually abused as a kid. And the first time that someone was like, you need to make this not be something that happened to you. This
Right.
is something that happened so that you can grow and so that you can, yada, 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 and however they worded it.
Right.
And at the time, of course, I'm like, hey, fuck you.
Totally.
From the bottom of my heart. And
Yeah.
then over time it becomes this, okay, well, what did I, how can I turn this terrible thing into something I'm able to actually help people? And I mean, the amount of, clients that I've worked with where they've experienced something like that and it literally comes out because I'm doing body work on them, I'm like stretching them or something like that,
Right.
or assessing them in some way, and just the way that movement releases that. People will, and I'm sure you've dealt with it too, where like just physical or energetic contact with someone can just like set it off,
Totally.
in such a crazy way. And one of the things that I'll say as well, I don't know if this is a commonly held belief, but it's something that I heard and something I felt resonated pretty directly with me, is that it seems like chakras are kind of broken up by like 7-year gaps. So people who have trauma or issues come up in the first 7 years tend to have an issue with their root.
Right.
People from 7 to 14 tends to be at second chakra. And
Yeah, it's sacral.
Shocker, I have the most issues with sacral because that's when that was going on in my life.
Right.
And it was like one of those things that as soon as I started addressing that, it, for lack of a better word, like flared up more intensely and became something I had to be even more aware of, I guess. How do I turn this pain into something positive?
Right.
And for anybody who's listening, by the way, if something like this has happened to you, please seek therapy in some way at some point in your life, because that was where this actually began for me being able to heal this. But anyway, sorry, just to clarify, Glenn, how much time?
1 more minute.
1 more minute. Okay. Until we have 10 left?
10.
Okay.
It's 10 minutes in already.
10 minutes in, okay.
Perfect.
One more thing that I wanted to say. I love that you mentioned the dissolution of ourselves in love. Because that's also one of those things that to really experience, like making love, so to speak, you have to let that happen.
Right.
And a lot of people are too scared to let that line in them dissolve to really fall into their partner.
Right.
And in my experience, when you really, everybody has like had someone that they're, sleeping with, and everybody has had somebody that they're making love to, and that is a completely fucking different experience.
Totally. Yeah. No. And it really makes sense too, and that's why especially with that sacral chakra, right? It is creative expression and sexual expression, right? So if you don't have healthy, conscious sexual expression in that space, it will shut it down. It'll block it. And that's a lot of what we're talking about right here, and that's the thing. It's not to say that wasn't completely messed up and wrong and this and that.
Yeah.
What I ultimately see it as is the stuff that's happened to me in my life is stuff that I know so well I can teach it
Exactly.
or hold space for it on another level. Right, and so that's kind of what I see too, and I can see it in you as well as you talk about this. Yes, it's still vulnerable. Yes, there's still a lot there, but you've made a space where you understand that you can help people, right? You can be like, hey, you have that happen to you? Oh man, I would love to sit there and listen to you and hold space and help you move along this space, because really, ultimately, that's what we need, right? Again, seek therapy, seek someone to talk to about this stuff, because it needs to come out. It needs to come up. It needs to be released to receive new energy, what we were talking about earlier.
And to make another callback, there also has to be an element of forgiveness. That was fucking hard for me. That was fucking hard for me.
Crazy hard.
But when I finally did that, and it was right around this time last year, November of last year.
Wonderful.
And it was the realization that people don't do that shit willingly, so to speak.
Right.
That normally happens because something bad happened to someone else, and it propagates through time.
Hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So in some way, like this terrible fucking thing that happens, a lot of people get to make that decision through forgiveness, forgiving that person. They also get to make the choice that they be the last person that continues that,
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You have the power to like stop it from moving forward.
Exactly.
Completely. Yeah, and that's obviously it's a sensitive subject, and so sending love to anybody who has had any issues with any of that, that is really intense. Although I think what Andrew and I are really trying to say here is like, you can continue to move forward and live a life without having this stuff weigh you down, but it is through forgiveness, which is really insanely tough. But it's that concept of I'm drinking the poison and expecting them to die.
Exactly.
And that's the issue with what I see in the energetics of this too, is they're holding all this pain and this trauma, understandably so, and it is not benefiting them any longer, right? They're not the little child that happened to. They're this big, adult, strong, like, for instance, in your life right now, if that opportunity arose again, you would whip someone's ass.
Oh, fuck yeah.
You would
be like, fuck the lesson, the motherfucker's gotta die.
Right. You would destroy someone.
Yeah.
In the name of, fuck you and this is
exactly.
not okay. And so that's kind of, that's what I hope people can take from this, is that is insanely rough, and I can't imagine, and all of that, and you can grow, you can move forward, you can release that energy to bring new energy in to help you understand it to a deeper level. And that's how I know that, because I constantly and consistently release this energy. It brings back new energy and information, and I'm able to look at it, process it, and integrate it into my life.
Yep.
Right? And then that's what I do with people in the healing practice as well. Right? Help them reintegrate that space with new energy, because if you don't have new energy, you're working with the same old stuff. And that's kind of how our subconscious works, is like you're saying, we grasp onto like, this is my reality, right? The way that I've seen the subconscious is we've built that map from, I think it's like 7 to 14 or something like that. And so building this map of our subconscious when we're so young, we're using that now in our 30s or 40s or 50s or however old you are. And that is, the way I look at it is,
worked at the time.
That subconscious map is you at 7 to 14 drawing in crayon on a napkin your life map. And we're trying to use that in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, But if you look at it and all of the resources and tools and technology we have, our map really looks like, you ever seen Minority Report where he's like swiping
all the crazy shit everywhere?
It's like Bluetooth. And I'm like, that is our subconscious now. And so helping people really realize that and dissolve that old subconscious and rebuild and reintegrate a new subconscious from where they're sitting now is seriously some of the most powerful work that I've ever seen.
It's experiencing this repeated deaths through our lives. Because what you had said, where you're like, me and all my employees and my team, like, we died to build this center. It's true on some level, because to grow as a human, you have to fucking die and die and die and die and die and keep coming back stronger and gain something out of that. Otherwise, that death is fucking permanent. Right, exactly. And that is a great way to probably cap this. Yeah, it's like, don't as one final thing, because we have not actually talked. Give us the real quick rundown. What does Healing One actually provide so that people can come in and check this out? Yeah, wonderful. Ultimately, so Healing One is what we call a balanced healing center or balanced healing establishment. And really what's going on there is we have float tanks, sensory deprivation. If you've never tried that, I highly recommend it for anybody who suffers from the effects of gravity. So literally everyone can benefit from these tanks, I promise you. They're a little interesting in the beginning, but I promise the light, sound, gravity taking away from you is so helpful. And really just two quick benefits about that really
go into everything else is, one, you're laying in 1,000 pounds of magnesium, right? Sulfate, which is Epsom salt, and 90% of Americans are magnesium deficient, and magnesium plays a role in over 800 functions of your biochemical system. Literally, if you're magnesium deficient, you have lots of issues. And that's 90% of Americans. So one, you're laying there soaking in this mineral, right, which is way better than actually taking it orally, because when you take it orally, it messes with your digestive tract. When you take it transdermally, it goes straight to your bloodstream right where you need it. So if you're taking it orally right now, try to look into a spray or a lotion or an oil. That's actually the best, or float. So sensory deprivation is really phenomenal. Also helps you decompress from your external stimuli. We take in so many pieces of information every day that we don't even really recognize, right? Lights, colors, sounds, this, that, the person doing that over there that we didn't really pay attention to. So flotation therapy is really phenomenal way to help everyone. We also do massage therapy, energy healing, infrared sauna.
You guys just started doing red light.
Yeah, and also oxygen therapy. We have our new oxygen concentrators came in like a month ago, and I finally got those set up.
Hell yeah.
So really kind of working to help you. It's a spa-esque vibe, but more on the health and healing side. Right, alternative healing kind of space. If anybody wants a tour, come on down. We have a new center on 560 East Plum. It's a really beautiful space. I'm super thankful to have it. But yeah, that place is really beneficial. Our motto is intention in everything. We're really striving to bring intention across the board. Also, another powerful thing that I have built and found is through Healing One and the energetics of it, I ultimately put myself into it to build it. What happened is I was sucked into it so hard, I actually had to pull myself away and create its own toroidal field. So I've learned now how to create grids and toroidal fields around businesses and houses and bedrooms and all of these things, so the energy moves itself, right? And so when you're in Healing One, or any of these businesses I've worked on or houses I've worked on, what happens is when you release something, it doesn't stay in the house or in the building or in the float tank or in the massage room. It literally is grounded out how I have it built. All this energy grounds out immediately, brings new energy information right back down and through. So the space is like always crystal clear, right? Come walk in our doors, guarantee you'll feel it.
Oh, I felt it the last time, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, we're gonna have to come in and actually, like Glenn and I are gonna have to come in and actually shoot some content there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys.
I just had one tiny little realization, because I noticed you emphasize the way that you say Healing One. It's not Healing One like a healing person.
Right.
It's Healing One.
Right.
Holy shit. Okay, we're going to end on that. Chaz, if they want to find you or find Healing One, your Instagrams, your whatevers, how do they find you?
Yeah, so Healing One's Instagram is Healing One World. Again, Healing One World, right? And then my Instagram is ChazManFlow.
Hell yeah.
Really because of the energetics of everything.
Right, of
so,
Chaz, this was fucking incredible, dude. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me on. Such a blessing.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Normally I have a couple sign-offs, but dude, I think that's a perfect way to do it. So, guys, again, my name is Andrew with Pride. This is Chaz or ChazManFlow with Healing One. And like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. What a fucking conversation,
We'll
bro.
have another conversation.
Most definitely. See y'all later.